The movie begins with a scene where a girl is severely injured. She is in a boat in the middle of the sea. From the surroundings, it is evident that she has encountered a massive accident. Everything around her is in ruins. Water is continuously seeping into the boat, and even the sails are torn. The girl is frantically searching for her companion and crying out loud. She tries to contact someone using the phone on the boat, but she cannot. Exhausted, she is eventually seen lying down. Then the story takes a turn and goes back to the past. 5 months earlier, a girl named Tommy is introduced. She is a cheerful and happy individual with one goal in life: to travel to various places around the world. Currently, she works on a boat to travel from one place to another, spending her days this way. One day, she meets Richard. Gradually, their mutual liking turns into love. Tammy learns that Richard has traveled to many places in his self-built boat, which increases her interest in him. Richard tells Tammy that traveling at sea is very challenging. During such journeys, one often feels extreme hunger and has to endure it. There are also other problems, such as fierce storms or threats from various marine creatures in the middle of the sea. Despite all these hardships, the natural beauty of the sea mesmerizes people, which is the main reason for loving the sea. Although Tommy has seen the sea, she has never been to the middle of it. Hearing about these experiences, she becomes very eager. At one point, Richard invites Tommy to join him on a sea voyage, and they set out together. They happily explore various places in the sea, enjoying their time. One day, they receive a job offer where Richard is tasked to take a boat from California to Tahiti. For this, they will be paid $10,000. Richard wants to take Tammy along on this trip. Initially, due to some family reasons, Tammy declines, but eventually she agrees and they embark on the journey together. They were enjoying their sea voyage when, one day, Richard proposes to Tammy in the middle of the sea. He gives her a ring he made himself. These were the happiest moments of Tammy's life with Richard. One day, they notice a bird flying onto their boat. But at that time, the boat was in the middle of the sea with no sign of land nearby. So, how did the bird fly so far? This event seemed unusual to them, and they began pondering over it. They realized that fierce winds or a storm must have brought the bird here. Later, they received weather updates indicating a massive, devastating storm approaching the area. The storm was said to be so powerful that it could destroy everything in its path. Richard informs Tammy about the impending danger, saying the storm could wipe them out in an instant. They decide to change their direction to avoid the storm. But before they could do so, they encountered the terrifying storm. The sky turns dark with thick clouds in moments. The boat starts swaying uncontrollably in the waves, and water begins pouring over them. Richard and Tammy try everything they can, untying ropes, adjusting sails, steering the boat against the waves. They leave no effort. The serene and picturesque sea they had seen turned into a destructive force, something they never imagined. In the massive waves, their boat starts rocking violently. Eventually, with no other options, Richard tells Tammy to go inside the boat. Initially, Tammy doesn't want to leave Richard, but she eventually follows his instructions. As she goes down, she accidentally falls inside the boat. At that moment, a massive wave capsizes the boat entirely. Richard gets hit on the head and sinks into the depths of the sea. The story then returns to the present, back to the opening scene where Tammy is seen alone in the boat. Exhausted from all the effort and weakened physically, she lies down. When she opens her eyes, she notices something in the distance. A small boat tied to their own. Seeing this, Tammy feels a bit relieved. She tries to start her boat to reach the small one, hoping that Richard might be in it. When her boat fails to start, she tries swimming to it. Meanwhile, her boat begins drifting in another direction. Realizing the time constraints and fearing losing her own boat, she decides to return and fix it first. Tammy patches the holes in the boat with duct tape as water keeps seeping in. Using a pipe, she starts removing water from the boat and struggles to fix the sails. Finally, after repairing the boat, she feels happy and optimistic about reaching Richard. Slowly, she navigates her boat towards the smaller one. When she reaches it, she sees Richard barely holding onto it, alive but in critical condition. Overjoyed, she ties a rope around her waist, swims to Richard, and manages to bring him aboard her boat. Richard is gravely injured with a deep wound in his leg. Tammy bandages his leg and notices his ribs are also broken. Upon examining the map, they realize they are in an area where no ships pass, and land is so far away that reaching it might take longer than they can survive. Despite the dire situation, Richard reassures Tammy with hope and courage. After evaluating everything, they realize that if they start trying from today, they can reach San Diego in 25 days. However, if they turn left from their current drift, they could also reach the Hawaiian Islands. This is because, compared to the route to San Diego, the wind and wave currents toward Hawaii are stronger, which would make their boat move faster. So, Tommy decides to do that. Regaining Richard brings back hope for survival in Tommy's heart. She strengthens her determination and stitches her wounds herself. On the other hand, she takes care of Richard as well. Since Richard is unwell, Tammy takes on the task of steering the boat. Day by day, Tammy slowly moves the boat forward. However, over time, more problems arise with the boat. It is discovered that the torn sail is stuck under the boat, preventing it from moving smoothly. Tammy uses all her strength to try to free the sail. Meanwhile, Richard's wounds keep worsening. The shortage of food on the boat also becomes a pressing issue. Richard suggests that to survive, they must include protein in their diet, which can be obtained from sea fish. Tommy was a vegetarian and didn't eat fish or meat. Initially, she hesitates to catch fish, but eventually decides to try for Richard's sake. However, she fails in her attempts. Fortunately, at that moment, a heavy rainstorm occurs at sea, somewhat alleviating their water shortage. Since seawater is highly saline, despite being surrounded by water, they had to rely on rain to meet their drinking needs. Thus, 18 days pass. Tommy sings to herself, and they share food and spend time together. Both of them try to stay mentally strong, as succumbing to despair in the face of adversity can make survival impossible. After spending 29 days like this, Tommy spots a ship. She signals for help, but the ship, being very large, passes by without noticing them. Shortly afterward, it is revealed that this was just a dream. No ship was actually there. Despite their efforts to stay mentally strong, their psychological state was far from stable. In reality, the entire incident of seeing a ship was Tommy's imagination. Both of them gradually grow weaker and sicker. Yet they maintain their belief that, no matter how, they will eventually reach their destination. At one point, Tommy shares the joys and sorrows of her family life with Richard. It is revealed that Tommy's childhood was unlike that of other children, filled with hidden pain. Whenever faced with problems as a child, she would go to the bathroom and imagine herself in another world, trying to escape reality. At this point, the story delivers a surprising twist. Richard, with whom Tommy had been spending all this time in the vast ocean, was only a figment of her imagination. In reality, Richard had drowned in the deep sea on that fateful stormy night and never returned. However, to comfort herself, Tammy deliberately chose to live in a world of imagination, just as she did in her childhood. Over time, she finally accepts the present reality. The truth is, losing a loved one forever is something no one can easily come to terms with. No matter how cruel the truth is, it must be accepted. Eventually, Tammy learns to live alone. She even learns to catch and eat fish from the sea. Adverse circumstances can indeed transform a person entirely. One day, a bird lands on Tammy's boat again. But this time, there is no reason for fear, only relief. This time, not in imagination but in reality, after 41 days of terrifying survival at sea, Tammy spots a ship. The people on the ship help her, provide her with food, and tie her boat to theirs to bring her to the shore. Tammy struggles to return to a normal life because spending 41 days alone in that terrifying ocean was excruciating. Later, she visits Richard's boat, where all the beautiful moments she spent with him come flooding back. The movie ends here. However, even after this major disaster, Tommy didn't stop her sea voyages. She went back to the sea again. The events depicted in the movie are based on a true, tragic incident that happened in 1983 to Tammy Oldham and Richard Sharp. Let us know in the comments how you liked today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. More videos on survival stories based on true events are coming soon. See you in the next video.